for police in the United States of America had changed dash cam videos, body-worn cameras videos, and imported separate audio, what do you think would happen? You'd lose all distrust. So when you look at Biden pardoning the January 6th committee, one, committees on Capitol Hill already have certain levels of protection. You know, that should be sufficient. When you provide them a pardon, you just delegitimized anything they were doing. Anybody that had concerns for the credibility, you just legitimized those concerns. So I think that was I think that was a disservice, but their focus wasn't getting to the truth.
Well, we have a minute to go. I told you this would fly by. So, but I think your work and your honesty and yes, your courage in speaking out about the committee and everything that you saw has really helped unravel the January 6th narrative. I think we're going to learn a lot more. Of course, Barry Loudermilk now has a permanent subcommittee under House Judiciary. Attorney General Pam Bondi is also announced that she will be looking into the abuses of the FBI against phenomenal. The J6 defendants. And so I think we are going to find out a lot more in addition to what we've already learned.
I think so as well. And I got to tell you, I miss law enforcement. All the law enforcement I've talked to from FDLE speaks very highly of new U.S. Attorney Bondi. So look forward to seeing what she's going to do. But thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah, you want to do this?
Yeah, let's get it. I'll come around this way. Thank you.
Everyone, thank you.
Every institution today is under attack. The home, the church, the government. And many people are asking, what is the truth? Jesus Christ claimed the ultimate truth. Are you willing to face the truth?
Do you think the MKUltra project ever actually ended?
The Central Intelligence Agency is actively involved in mind manipulation.
We all answer to one God and one Savior, and He's there to change your life for the better.
Freedom, sovereignty, prosperity. The Patriots for Europe Foundation is on a mission to make Europe great again. Globalist elites have led Europe into a dead-end street. Violent crime has surged because of mass immigration. The Green Deal has put the future of the European economy at risk. Fake NGOs and the massive bureaucracy in Brussels are interfering in our democracies. Patriots must take action. We bring analysis, we organize debates, we build the network of patriots to challenge the woke narrative head on. Patriots for Europe Foundation.
Hey, it's Matt Schlapp with CPAC. You know, we've had a huge problem in this country with election fraud. But at CPAC, that's not a problem. Our only problem is getting each and every one of you to vote. So look at your badge. You have a number on that badge. And get your phone out and vote on all the issues that matter. And my guess is you probably like what Trump's doing as well. And we'll have the results for you very soon.
Being woke is easy when it was just a call to defund the police or end capitalism, right? It's a little different when your fellow ideologues start cheering for your beheading. And here's a question. This next video, does this look like London to you? The pro-Hamas protests making for a very interesting political moment at Harvard. A university recently ranked the worst school for free speech in America. What would Harvard do in a moment like this, we all wondered? A school that will expel you for using the wrong pronoun and making a pink-haired trans girl cry. Well, in this moment, Harvard just miraculously transformed into free speech absolution. Apparently at Harvard, there's nothing offensive at all, even though everything's offensive at Harvard. There's nothing offensive at all about celebrating the murder of 1,000 people, including a whole bunch of kids.
As I think it was President Reagan said, we're from the government. We're here to help.
I think you all know that I've always felt the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
We're from the government. We're here to help.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
President Trump is back in the White House.
Donald Trump won the presidency.
President Trump is back in the White House.
Is back in the White House. Donald Trump has taken back America.
I actually started quite a while ago in CPAC, and I enjoyed it so much that I came back for a second one, then a third, then I said, what the hell, let's run for president. Matt said, it's like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. He says, you should run for politics. He's the one who said you should run for the presidency of the United States.
It is my honor to introduce to CPAC 2017 our president, Donald Trump.
First of all, I want to thank Matt Schlapp and his very, very incredible wife and boss, Mercedes, who have been fantastic friends and supporters, and so great when I watch them on television defending me. Nobody has a chance. I love this place. Love you people. You never stop fighting for America, and I will never, ever stop fighting for you. We know that there are still more records to be shattered, new summits to be scaled, more triumphs to be realized, and more amazing history just waiting to be written. The American adventure has only just begun. God bless America, and we will see you next year. Thank you very much. You never stop fighting for America, and I will never, ever stop fighting for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it takes a village, people. The MAGA Moolah Meltdown. Please welcome CPAC Senior Fellow Mercedes Schlapp, Senior Advisor United Against Nuclear Iran Hiba Willis, CEO United Against Nuclear Iran Ambassador Mark D. Wallace, and CPAC Chairman Matt Schlapp.
Where's Michael? What kind of music is that?
I don't know.
Is that Iranian music?
No, but we should play one.
Hey, was Benny Johnson not great? That's great. I saw some dance moves out there that were pretty. That was pretty good. Did you get to see that? Benny got the whole crowd dancing.
I'm not surprised. I mean, he's such a charmer.
And tonight, just so you know, I don't know where Natasha Owens is. She's probably she's getting another dress made. She's got a special
dress. It was like
she's got a special song for you guys tonight. So anybody who's going to the dinner, and if you're not going to the dinner, make sure you watch. I know C-SPAN's got this. X has it. Ben Shapiro was showing this, live streaming this on the Daily Wire yesterday. Right. So many ways to get this content, so you make sure you watch. Thanks for being here, guys.
Thanks for having us.
So I'm in a little bit of a vulnerable position today because
I don't know if that's a good thing, Schlapp.
I've known Ambassador Mark Wallace. I choke on that because, you know, when your friend has an august title like that.
Never used it before.
Ambassador, whatever. But, you know, it is kind of, I mean, ambassador to the UN. So that takes it down a couple notches, actually, when you say UN. But the, sorry, it's just the way
You're vulnerable here, Schlapp.
I am vulnerable because he's known me a really long time. Priscilla O'Shaughnessy's here. I know she's going to be mad at me for saying it, from my hometown in Wichita. Priscilla's known me since I'm like 18, 16, 17, something like that. So you could probably learn some bad stuff from Priscilla. If you
Matt, you're really telling your age right now, okay?
And Wallace is in the same position. But Mark, it's a great honor for Mercy and I to have you and your beautiful wife. You guys do such amazing work. You had me, give me a very special invitation to go to the 80th anniversary at Auschwitz recently. I went to Poland. Mr. and Mrs. Balaban and Henry, I went to Poland, your home country. Even though you're Americans, and a beautiful place. We met with amazing people. It was a very moving trip. Thanks for including me. But to have you here is very special for Mercy and I. You're a great friend. The work you do, you've done behind the scenes and prominently to try to make sure that we defang Iran and Hiva, from your point of view, give the Iranian people a shot. It's the mullahs who are in the way, just like the same problem we have in Cuba, the same problem we have in China. So thanks for being here.
Guys, thanks for having me. And I have to do a little something to start this.
Oh, no.
Indulge me because it's a sentimental thing. I have to get some real thank yous out of the way and talk about what this is, because I've known them a very long time and I've seen this grow and I've seen what it's meant to the Schlapps. And it's very moving for me to work with them. They're very dear friends of mine. But first we have to say, I have to acknowledge and tell a story. I want to acknowledge the government of Poland, Prime Minister Tusk, my friend Radek Sikorski, and the Polish delegation. The president of Poland's coming as well. And there's an entire Polish contingent here. Guys, stand up just for 1 second.
And the Poles here, you stand up.
Every Pole.
Come on.
Every Pole.
Stand up. Come on.
No, the delegation, please. The entire delegation, stand up. Because the reason why that's so important is Poland is here in so many ways, and their government is so wonderful. And I had a crazy caper to exfiltrate a drone out of Ukraine and work with our allies, the Poles, to sneak an Iranian drone out of Ukraine and fly it on a Polish C-130, and it's displayed here. They're great allies, and before the president even did it, they are the biggest NATO defense spender in the world. They spend nearly 5% already, and they are really the poster child of what we want a NATO ally to be about. And it's so great to be here, and all the Poles to see them here. It's really exciting. Now, I was talking in the green room. It's, the Schlapp green room, I guess. And I was talking to Foreign Minister Sikorski and Amanda McKinney, who's here, and I was talking Iranian drones and things, and this is what CPAC's about. All of a sudden, it turns out that Poland, and I didn't know this, is one of the great apple producers in the world. And Amanda, wherever she is here, produces incredible apples in Washington State. So immediately, the CPAC discussion in the green room that was about Iranian drones turned into a apple diplomacy, and that's what this place
could have easily turned into tariffs. So it could have gotten really fun, right?
But it's a testament to what CPAC is about. And, having known them, it's really what the Schlapps are about, because you can have a conversation with real people about real things and important things and the binds that tie us together. And Matt and Mercy, I've seen you, and I knew you before you were Matt and Mercy. And to see that and the things that you do for our country and for all of us, I just think we should give them an applause. I have to do that. I've known them a long time. But to Matt and Mercy, I mean it. I mean it. I'm totally hokey.
Okay, you're going to make me cry. Let's get going.
No, I think he just wants to get invited back.
I want to talk about tough things.
Hiva, you married this guy who is this anti-Iranian regime activist, anti-extremism activist. We have a lot of commonality. Your organization doesn't really get involved in politics. You're really involved in national security.
We are.
We get involved in politics, but there's a lot of crossover here. There's so much that we have in common, because at the end of the day, if it's not about human rights, God-given rights, what is it all about? And you must have this amazing experience of seeing Donald Trump's maximum pressure campaign that your husband had a lot to do with building, then this 4-year hiatus, which is everything to subsidize this radicalized regime. And now we're back to trying to bring the regime, not the people, the regime to its knees by depriving them of everything they could possibly need, including customers for their petroleum products. How does it feel to be back on the right track?
It brings hope back. Let me tell you, the 4 years, it felt like a betrayal. It felt like a betrayal. All the money that President Biden gave back to the Iranian regime, not a single one of it went to the people to do anything good for this country. People suffered under
continue to suffer under this regime. This regime kills its own people, kills its young women, young men, but all they want is freedom, basic freedom of just not, how threatening is my hair right now to you? A young woman died, well, yeah, but a young woman dies on the street for just showing a bit of her hair. And President Biden did not support any of it. And to me, that was unacceptable. And thank God that President Trump is back, because this regime is scared. Let me tell you, all of its proxies are brought down to its knees. It is, if any change is going to happen, it is now, and this is the time. And I am so thankful for the maximum pressure being back on an all option against this regime. Because
Eva, you grew up in Iran. You spent time there. Yeah. Your family had to flee this regime. I mean, how difficult was it for your family to pick up and have to leave everything to come here to the United States?
Well, your family knows something about that.
Right,
too.
both of you.
Yeah,
I mean,
both of us.
I mean, really,
Yeah.
we have a Cuban American and an Iranian American sitting next to one another. It's an amazing testament to our country that you two are here and can talk about human rights and freedom. Because I know them obviously both really well. Their experience across the world is so similar, you know, and there's hope now. But you know.
And where we have come this far, this country has provided so much opportunity, and just to the freedom and the opportunity that has brought us. I mean, I would have never thought I would be sitting here with you guys, with this amazing audience, talking about President Trump. And to me, this is a dream come true. And
Mercy, how long was your father in prison?
This is very near and dear, because what you see, and we had this conversation yesterday with the Jewish families, the families of the hostages, of the tragedy of really how horrific governments can be, terrorists can be, and for us in the United States, we don't comprehend it 100% because we live in this great country. But when I look at my father, who is now 89 years old, who, back in the early 60s, when he did have to confront the communist regime, and he was put in a situation where, he was building his businesses, he was in the prime of his life, to have to turn everything over to the communists because they came in and said, give me your keys to your house, give me your keys to your businesses, and then he's left with nothing. And how many countries have so many people, millions and millions of people, who have lost everything in the hands of these horrific authoritarian regimes and these communist regimes? And so for my father, he was thrown into jail after trying to overthrow the Cuban government, and was in jail for literally close to 8 years, where he was thrown into solitary confinement, naked in a dark room for 2 to 3 months at a time, where he was tortured, where he would hear the cries of his friends being executed. It is horrific what the communists have done to destroy so many people, so many families in the world. And when you ask my father, are you Cuban? Are you American? He proudly says, I am American. I stand for freedom. And you, my daughter, and you, my grandchildren, and you, my son-in-law, you have an obligation to protect this country. You have an obligation to protect the freedoms that are fragile in America. And that is my message to every single one of you in this audience.
Let me just say one thing there. So Agnieszka, I often say, well, you're Polish, you correct me. You say you're American. When I ask my father-in-law, or if I slip up and say he's Cuban-American, he puts his hand on my arm and says, I'm an American. This is a very, very important difference. There's nothing wrong with being proud of your heritage. But as Mark Levin, who is one of a real hero to all of us, says, we're not a nation of immigrants. We're a nation of former immigrants. That's a really important distinction.
Her family, may her father rest in peace, Mir, he was a wonderful man. He said the same thing to him. I knew him before he passed. And he said, I'm an American. And her father and her mother gave up everything in Iran to move her and her sisters here to get a better life. her mother couldn't speak English and still struggles with it because she had a harder time, came a little later, but they wanted a better life for their daughters. And that's an incredible experience, all in the face of oppression. And look, because of our friends, the Poles and the United States, President Trump, our friend Rick Grinnell, we were able to bring this Shahed 136 drone.
Which everyone can go down to our CPAC Central and go see it. It's actually here, the first time on American soil. Right. It's at CPAC. Go see this killing machine. And it's a good, important reminder to this regime, this barbaric, murderous regime that intends to tell you that it stands for some kind of godly principles. What an abomination they are. It's important for them to know that due to Mark's good work, that we're on to them, that we are going to make sure that we stop them, and that they should be, we said yesterday, around the globe, all the right people are sweating.
That's right.
They're worried. And that's part of the maximum pressure campaign, is to make sure that they understand that if they take steps against America, against Israel, against Jewish people, against Christian people, against our allies, against the stability of civilization, I believe, I'll speak for him, even though I don't represent him, I believe President Trump and our allies will take the steps needed to make this stop. And that starts with Israel getting rid of Hamas. It starts there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look, it's very rare when you can look into the eyes of a despotic regime, because they usually lie, and the propaganda they put out is to tell you that they aren't who they are. But that drone downstairs, that Shahed 136, is the ubiquitous terror weapon of mass destruction across the Middle East.
There it is, right there on your screen.
There it is, and we have it downstairs. It's been used against Israel. 3 American service members died on the sharp end of that because of, in my opinion, failed policies of the previous administration. Numerous service members have been injured. It's attacked our allies in Saudi Arabia, the UAE, across Syria and Iraq, and shipping in the Bab el-Mandeb in the Red Sea, even in the Persian Gulf. And of course, they've sent over 6,000 of these drones into Russia to attack Ukraine. And it is an indiscriminate terror weapon that kills innocent women and children. So every time you see an Iranian official, and we list them, say this propaganda, and they smile at you, the smiles that oppress their families, you'll look at this drone, and that's the true face of oppression. That drone is what they really are.
So and thanks for bringing it here. I think it's important. The other person who was going to be with us today was the Crown Prince of Iran, who played us. Mercy and I sometimes pinch ourselves because we have the most fascinating meetings at our CPAC headquarters. And he came to our headquarters, and we had this great conversation about his view for the government of Iran to be a secular government, and the government of Iran that would recognize the state of Israel, a government of Iran that would rid itself of this concept of fueling and feeding and funding terrorism. He's an important voice, and he wanted to be with us here today.
Right, and we heard, we hope, he indicated his mother, the great Shabanu, is sick, and he had to return to Paris.
The Shah of Iran's widow is alive.
Yes, and apparently she was ill, and we wish her the best. And I'm personally disappointed that I didn't get to see His Royal Highness, and I know he would have been a valuable addition. But we have to figure out ways to support the Iranian people, just like we supported the Cuban people, because these are the oppressed. Any ideas?
We've been thinking about this.
Should we do it? Should we make some news?
Yeah, I think we should make some news. Why don't you make the news?
Oh, man.
Mercy, you're okay with the news, right?
Yes.
Because I always have
I'm not having another baby.
This is why.
I would love to, but we're.
Oh, she says that until someone puts a little baby in her arms, and then she starts.
I could be a grandmother before.
This is why.
This might be harder than actually raising a baby. Let me just say,
This might be harder.
but it's worthwhile.
We might have opened up that topic. But
it is worthwhile, though.
I will say this is one of the reasons why we're here as couples too, because I kind of saw how you guys operated at the museum that you're opening up on the corner of Auschwitz, at the the corner of the camp where this horrible criminal lived, who was the camp
Commandant. You watched the movie
Huss.
The Zone of Interest, the Huss house, Rudolph Huss. We don't like saying his name. I'll only say it one time. But the man that institutionalized the industrial scale slaughter of Jews and other people, Poles, Romans.
A lot of Poles.
Yeah, a lot of Poles. But millions of Jews went to their death looking at that house. It is the true face of evil. We managed to put and you were there, we put a mezuzah on the front door of that house after 80 years.
Yeah, and I got to touch it. It was incredibly meaningful.
It was so interesting when we put that mezuzah on. Sometimes you just do things and you don't realize. And we put it on that door. We observed the halakhic principles in doing it, and we just did it. And everybody, Jews, non-Jews alike, wanted to go touch that mezuzah, and it's become just a real rallying point.
It's an evil place.
It's wonderful.
I will say it's an evil place. I felt evil there. I didn't like being there. So it's very important that we take evil places and try to, make them more holy.
And we got to teach. We got to teach the people. We got to teach the people that these tragedies, these genocides, they happen. They have destroyed communities. They have destroyed families, and it must stop.
So let me just say one thing. I wanted to say this one thing. It's really important. So we had a great tour guide at Auschwitz, and I'd never been to a concentration camp, a death camp, a war camp. On purpose, I hadn't gone because I already know I think it's terrible, and it upsets me so much to even be there. But one of the things I learned was the initial intent of Auschwitz was to kill political prisoners in Poland. So many Polish people were killed who were trying to stand up to authoritarianism. Is this right? This is right. And this is the story for America. I'm not comparing it to that. I'm simply saying the lesson I learned was whether you're talking about people that are persecuted by the government. We've had this whole conversation with Julie Kelly here. What happened to people that felt like the last election had fraud? And we have all these J6 victims. You have all these people who couldn't even speak their mind that had their Facebook page canceled, while the mullahs have their Facebook page. Donald Trump and others people have their Facebook page taken away. The lesson of all of that is when you snuff out political speech, that's just the beginning, and it can lead to even worse things. So you're right, sweetheart. We have to really understand our history. So part of our understanding our history is calling out the bad guys now, right? Absolutely. Ambassador Wallace?
Absolutely.
So how do we do that?
Well, I think one of the things we have to do is think about how we can help the oppressed, right? How do we rally that? And look, we've operated when the Crown Prince was supposed to be here today. We can do something to try to help organize that diaspora. It's a diverse diaspora, different people, different competing influences. And look, like any diaspora, mercy the Cuban diaspora, there's a lot of, at times, friction. But if we can do something to show that we stand with these diasporas, as diverse as they are, and bring them together in one roof, the moment the unity is shown against these despotic regimes, it's the first day of the last day of those regimes. So what do you think?
I think we should look at the title of this conversation. I'd like to have a MAGA mullah meltdown.
A MAGA mullah meltdown? A CPAC Iran in exile?
I think a CPAC Iran in exile. What do you guys think?
I think
would that cause, there we go, that would cause a meltdown.
Right, we could invite all the Iranians, leaders and groups who all at times have friction, but are all united against this regime. And I know, Matt, you've done so many things with CPAC, but that would be an incredible way to show the people of Iran that their future might be just around the corner.
What would your dad think about having a MAGA mullah meltdown?
It will be a big task, but it is worthwhile, and we have to
Let's do it.
That's the only way.
You guys join us?
You
You guys got to show up. Don't worry, we're not going to Tehran.
Yeah, we'll do it here.
We're going to go someplace closer. All right, thank you all.
I will not be participating if it's Tehran.
That's right, not doing that. Thank you all for being here.
Thank
you for bringing this weapon of mass destruction. Make sure you go down to the CPAC Central to check it out. And we got so much more going on today, so just don't leave the room for very long at one time, okay? God bless you all. Thank you all for being here. Thanks.
Welcome to CPAC. At Great American Media, we celebrate what matters most: faith, family, and country. Today, we invite you to experience storytelling that uplifts, inspires, and reflects the values we all cherish. PureFlix is your home for entertainment without compromise. With faith-driven movies and series, we bring you stories that strengthen hearts, uplift spirits, and honor what truly matters. And on Great American Family, where faith leads, where stories inspire. Welcome home. Whether it's Christmas all year long, heartfelt romances, or movies that bring families together, we are here to make you feel at home. At Great American Media, our foundation is quality. Our promise is to always deliver entertainment that aligns with your faith and values. Thank you for standing with us as we stand for faith, family, and country. Enjoy CPAC. And remember, when you choose Great American Media, you choose entertainment that lifts you up. Join us and experience the best in faith and family entertainment.
Wherever human freedom is under attack, in courtrooms, legislatures, and the public square, we stand ready to defend it. This is why Alliance Defending Freedom exists.
Supreme Court victory for a Christian woman who was taken to court for standing firm in her beliefs.
The First Amendment follows a golden rule. If we want to protect speech for ourselves, then we need to protect it for others.
A video released this week by ADF International has attracted over 34 million views and even attracted comment from Elon Musk. It concerned a pair of Swiss parents who have had their child taken away from them because they objected to her gender transition.
We're not just here to stop the erosion of liberty for this moment alone. We are here to keep the door open for the gospel. And when the gospel does its work, truth doesn't just hold its ground. It advances. It sets people free for generations to come. This is our mission at Alliance Defending Freedom.
Every institution today is under attack. The home, the church, the government. And many people are asking, what is the truth? Jesus Christ claimed the ultimate truth. Are you willing to face the truth?
Do you think the MK Ultra project ever actually ended?
The Central Intelligence Agency is actively involved in mind manipulation.
We all answer to one God and one Savior, and He's there to change your life for the better.
America is under attack. Our families are being crushed under the politics of a radical agenda. But moms have had enough. We are standing up and we are fighting back.
This is our battle. This battle is every bit as important as the Revolutionary War because we fight for the same thing.
Moms for America is a national movement of moms reclaiming our culture for truth, family, freedom, and the Constitution.
I think Moms for America is exactly on track and is doing the right thing for the future of our country and our children.
Like Moms for America is going at the heart of the issue.
I want to go on the record and say I'm for moms, I'm for America, and I'm especially for Moms for America.
But I am honored to join Moms for America today as we speak out against the horrific mandates.
With a national network of over 500,000 mothers, Moms for America is one of the fastest growing movements of women in the country.
The most dangerous place in all of nature is between a mama bear and her baby cub.
We are the change. No matter what, no matter where, and no matter how difficult the obstacles are that are facing us and our families, we will not give up and we will not give in.
So if not now, then when? If not you, then who?
Welcome to the Moonlight Revolution.
Hungary.
CPAC Hungary, the Hungarian version of the annual super conference of hard-right US Republicans, has begun in Budapest.
Hungary's authoritarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban.
CPAC is doing a special event in Hungary in May.
CPAC has made its way to Europe for the very first time. The gathering, frequented by many of the GOP's leading fringe voices, is underway right now in Hungary.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Chairman CPAC Hungary, Miklos Santo.
Dear friends, fellow patriots, what a time to be alive. For a wonderful month, Donald Trump has been back in the Oval Office, and we can all breathe free again. And would you look at Elon Musk and Doge? I have never seen so many liberal tears in my life. And I'm from Hungary, you know, the island of freedom of Europe. It is our national sport to make the liberals cry. But of course, you know that. You know a lot about Hungary, don't you? But why? It's because our Prime Minister, Viktor Orban, he is a loyal friend to President Trump and to CPAC. And loyalty is a true conservative value. Prime Minister Orban also spoke at CPAC Dallas in 2022 and has been the keynote speaker at every and each CPAC Hungary so far. And CPAC Hungary will be a joyous occasion this May again. Because 2025 began tremendously. The Trump tsunami has swept the Dems out of office, and there is a revival of the right on the old continent, led by Prime Minister Orban and the Patriots for Europe. But dear friends, allow me to recall a Hungarian saying. It is in victory that one must remain most humble and have a realistic view of the world, I would add. We may have won a famous battle in the struggle for the soul of the West, but the fight against the woke is far from over. Until Donald Trump came to your rescue, the United States hadn't had a strong leader for almost 2 generations. And sadly, the same applies to Western Europe. And the lack of leadership and vision has led to a systematic collapse on an economic, political, and security scale. The disease has spread to every and each level of our societies, but its roots are cultural. And culture is a matter of national security. When Elon Musk let the Doge loose at USAID headquarters, he was targeting the root cause. Corrupt, malicious, Marxist propaganda poisoning the well of our civilizational greatness. But USAID was only one of the heads of the woke hydra. The left's geopolitical manipulation machine also operates through Hollywood, Brussels, the UN, the Washington swamp, the big media, the Ford, the Gates, the Rockefeller foundations, and of course, George Soros' Open Society Network. Just imagine that good old Georgie spent $1.4 billion to meddle in Europe. The woke machine assimilated bureaucracies and policy making at all levels of government. It launched a concerted assault on the family, Christianity, and the sovereignty of nations. And the establishment has been more than happy to play along as puppets of the globalist deep state network. So do you know why they hate Trump, Orban, or Milei so much? Because they refused to submit, wouldn't assimilate, and can't be destroyed. And now it turns out that they were right all along. Just one, but hugely important example. Both President Trump and Prime Minister Orban have been pushing for an end to the bloodshed in Ukraine, going against the progressive warmongers. And now, with the new sheriff, with your new sheriff in the White House, peace negotiations have finally begun, and it's really shocking to see supposed pacifists whining that the war might be over. So, the lesson is strong leaders make peace, weak leaders make war. And our civilization is not lost as long as such visionary and charismatic leaders can rise in the Americas and Europe. But in order to cut off every single head of the woke hydra and break the great geopolitical manipulation machine of the left, we must unite our forces. You conservatives, we respect the past, so we should write the future too, and so we will win, but we win so that we can fight for more. Fight for normality over green jihad, fight for the family, the best thing humanity invented so far, over wokeness, fight for political leadership over bureaucratic dictatorship, fight for national security over open society, and fight for peace, securing life for future generations over the ideology-driven bloodshed of war. Life is much more than a struggle for self-preservation. And what it makes it more is precisely what it makes it truly beautiful and meaningful to us. Our families, our children, our dignity, our freedom, our faith, and our country. That is the message I came here to share, and that is what CPAC and CPAC Hungary is all about. We really very much hope you join us again this May in Budapest at CPAC Hungary. Let us fight together, and the age of patriots will dawn. With a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, let us be confident that the best is yet to come. God bless you, God bless America, God bless Hungary, to God alone glory. Thank you very much.
I switched.
I switched.
I switched.
I made the switch to Newsmax.
We start this morning in Washington, where all eyes are on the White House. I switched to Newsmax.
Newsmax. Newsmax.
Have you made the switch? You bet I did. My whole family switched.
Everyone is making the switch. I did.
I did.
I switched, and it made all the difference.
It made all the difference.
Have you made the switch? You should. Millions are switching to Newsmax. You should too.
America is under attack. Our families are being crushed under the politics of a radical agenda. But moms have had enough. We are standing up and we are fighting back.
This is our battle. This battle is every bit as important as the Revolutionary War because we fight for the same same thing.
Moms for America is a national movement of moms reclaiming our culture for truth, family, freedom, and the Constitution.
I think Moms for America is exactly on track and is doing the right thing for the future of our country and our children.
Like, Moms for America is going at the heart of the issue.
I want to go on the record and say I'm for moms, I'm for America, and I'm especially for Moms for America.
But I am honored to join Moms for America today as we speak out against the horrific mandates.
With a national network of over 500,000 mothers, Moms for America is one of the fastest growing movements of women in the country.
The most dangerous place in all of nature is between a mama bear and her baby cub.
We are the change. No matter what, no matter where, and no matter how difficult the obstacles are that are facing us and our families, we will not give up and we will not give in.
So if not now, then when? If not you, then who?
Welcome to the Homeland Revolution.
Every institution today is under attack. The home, the church, the government. And many people are asking, what is the truth? Jesus Christ claimed the ultimate truth. Are you willing to face the truth?
Do you think the MK Ultra project ever actually ended?
The Central Intelligence Agency is actively involved in mind manipulation.
We all answer to one God and one Savior, and He's there to change your life for the better.
Creators, it's time to take control. With Bursts, you create impactful content in seconds. Powered by blockchain, your content and earnings are protected, transparent, and yours to control. Play TV isn't just a platform. It's a community of creators building a new future together. Your freedom starts when you press play.
Hey, it's Matt Schlapp with CPAC. You know, we've had a huge problem in this country with election fraud. But at CPAC, that's not a problem. Our only problem is getting each and every one of you to vote. So look at your badge. You have a number on that badge. And get your phone out and vote on all the issues that matter. And my guess is you probably like what Trump's doing as well. And we'll have the results for you very soon.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Inclusion Delusion, Hollywood Survivors. Please welcome President and CEO, Great American Media, Bill Abbott, actor and filmmaker, Dean Cain, and your host, co-host of Morning on Merritt Street, Fanchon Stinger.
Wow. Which one? That's her. I don't go in the middle.
Well, hello, CPAC. Wait a minute. I don't know if I heard that right. Hello, CPAC. Well, we are delighted to be with you this afternoon, but there's one thing we're going to get started and declared right off the bat. CPAC, revival is here. Woo! Revival is here. I know so many of you, myself included, have been praying for revival. We have been praying for our country. We have been praying to return back to the Christian Judeo values that our country is founded on and those great freedoms that we all are blessed to enjoy. So today, we are delighted and honored to talk with you about where we've come, where we are, and what God has for this country in the future. Amen? All right, let's get started. Well, Bill and Dean, it's surreal to be able to sit here and have a conversation with both of you because both of you are so integral in terms of this journey we have all been on. Bill, I want to start with you. We know you have a stellar background. You have led the faith in media movement with your positions throughout the years. Now you're with the Great American Media Corporation. You're leading that. There's so many projects that you have now, more that are coming. But a lot of us have heard your name. A lot of us have watched your entertainment. We're so excited about what you're doing, so thank you for that. I want to start with something that I don't know that you have touched on in public. But we're among family, so we're going to do it right here, right now. You were previously with the Hallmark Channel, and all of a sudden one day you were gone, and you have not really given us the behind the scenes, the scoop, that's what our journalists like to get, in terms of what really happened. Would you like to talk about that for the first time right here publicly?
Of course, sure.
I'm dying to hear this story.
Well, we work together a lot. That's fine.
Yes.
And we will work together.
At the Hallmark Channel, but amazingly, after you left, I didn't work at the Hallmark Channel anymore.
Well, you're next. After he tells his story, your story's coming.
No. Well, so we had a great team at Hallmark that built an incredible franchise and a great brand and a network and a bunch of networks, actually. And we got to the point in 2017, we were number one, fourth quarter, with Countdown to Christmas, and very successful. And at that point, though, you could see the change in, the chairman and the management at the parent company and the family to become much more woke and DEI driven, very DEI driven. And so, they were in DEI before it was cool to be in DEI. Mm-hmm. And the reality of that was that we were serving an audience that was focused on family-friendly content and faith-based content, that they wanted traditions, they wanted values, they wanted to see that expressed on TV. And so there was tremendous pressure from the family to make changes.
So at some point then you decided, and you stood up and had the courage to say, I'm not going along with this. I heard, and maybe this little birdie told me the right information or the wrong information, but there was an incident that happened with the White House tree lighting.
Well, this was really the beginning of really seeing this become public or become evident to me. We were chosen to host and televise the White House tree lighting. It was President Trump's first time doing the tree lighting. And there was an article in The Hill that said, Trump White House partners with Hallmark Channel for Christmas tree lighting. And it was wildly successful. It was the president's first tree lighting. We had talent there. It did big ratings. It was a big part of our Christmas presentation. And the reaction was, at the time, that's not so good. And you're either with humanity or you're against it.
That's what you were told?
Yes.
And what was your response?
Well, at the time, I was totally shocked. We had an incredibly successful business that was thriving, and we were, by any measure, we were told for many years we could never be successful as an independent, that we were just, in over our head, we wouldn't be able to survive, and we were hugely successful. So, I kind of took it with a grain of salt. At the time, though, I was very shaken by that thinking, and then you saw it become more pervasive over the next couple of years. So, and we had an audience that was so loyal, loved what we did so much, and they had nowhere else to go on TV. There are many places, any place you want to go, you're going to find different type of content that is not family-friendly and values-based.
When you're faced with something like that, there had to be a level of heartbreak there, because you've poured your life, you've poured your career into that, you've poured your mission, your testimony, your own personal faith into that, and when you come to a moment like that.
And reading notes from viewers who were just so disappointed with, what the direction was is heartbreaking.
Wow. Dean, you were with Hallmark Channel as well. Of course, you guys have a history, and you left. Tell us a little bit about your personal experience.
By the way, did I host that Christmas dinner? I did host that. As a matter of fact.
Did you know that was going on behind the scenes at the time?
No, I was too busy working for him. I didn't know that was, I didn't realize that was the feedback, which is amazing, because I remember it being a very successful event. It was great fun.
It's shocking to hear that. It's actually ridiculous. And, you know, when Bill left Hallmark, I was shocked as well, because I had been doing a lot of films for them and I enjoyed them so much. Yeah. I'm a single father and I wanted to make a lot of content that my son could see and my family could see and be around that, and that I wanted to watch. And you really built an incredible brand. Absolutely. And then all of a sudden, Bill was gone and my phone never rang from Hallmark again. And I was like, wow, okay, whatever has happened with the sort of the wokeness, there wasn't going to be me on the other end of the line, which I was okay with. I mean, I had plenty of other things to do. But I found that shocking. I love what you've built. Congratulations again. But it's just that you've proven that what you're putting out there is what people want to watch. And that's fantastic. You know, as far as being canceled, they tried to cancel me in Hollywood so many times. If an actor speaks up on something, listen, and for actors, go ahead and speak up or don't. It doesn't matter to me. I would work with Robert De Niro. He's a great actor. I don't like his politics. You know, Rob Reiner, very good director. I don't agree with his politics either, but I would still work with him. And I don't think it works the other way around. Like, I don't think Rob Reiner, and I've met with Rob since, and he didn't hire me, but it could be for many reasons. But, you know, you just sort of wonder, you know, why it's so solid, such a solid wall on one side and not the other. So I don't think I've ever really been canceled because I continue to work constantly and I voice my opinion, and thank you.
Well, absolutely. There is an element of courage when it comes to pressure from the world. And as Christians, we need to understand that we are called to be bold. We're called to be confident, and we're called to operate in excellence at all times. It's interesting because now there is a headline of an article in the New York Times that reads,
this ought to be good.
"The woke movies era is over." That was the New York Times. Absolutely. And I want to read this other, because I want both of you to kind of speak to this, because you have been on the forefront of leading by example when it comes to standing up. There's a cultural shift. This is a quote. And this cultural shift is not merely a trend. It is a revival that has the potential to reshape society in ways that will make the powerful take notice. It is not about political parties, yet its impact will be felt across the political and cultural landscape as young people find hope and identity in Christ and step up as the next generation of leaders. That is where we are.
Are you sure that was the New York Times?
That was not the New York Times.
Oh, that part wasn't.
That was the Christian Post.
There we go.
There you go. The New York Times has declared woke movies that era over. With that being said, Bill, what is next for Great American media?
Well, we're going to be true to who we are. We will never compromise our values. We will never change. And we don't care what the environment is. We will be serving the viewer, which we believe, by the way, is the vast majority of the country who want to see faith-based content that's family-friendly and supports the country and isn't derisive of those elements. So we will never change who we are.
What is the importance, Dean, because you have been very outspoken, like you said. It is not the majority of the country that was asking for the woke content that was being put out. I work for Dr. Phil's Merit TV, and Dr. Phil has done so much research on this fringe that seems to have the microphone. You have challenged that. Talk about the significance of where we are right now and what opportunity we have to spread faith, family, and traditional values.
Well, you kind of don't have to look any much further than what Bill has done at Great American Media.
Yeah.
There's a reason that folks have flocked over there. I'm not sure about the Hallmark numbers anymore, but I got a funny feeling they're not as good as they used to be, my friend, and I think your numbers are up. People go and watch what they want to watch, and they'll find that, and I think that's wonderful. Andrew Breitbart, who was a friend of mine, once said that, you know, politics are downstream from culture. When you're making content like Bill is making and putting out there, people want that, and they will come to it, and they will see it. And I think that's super important. I love making that stuff because I want my son to be able to, you know, watch this. And now he's 24 now, so he's getting into different things. But when he was in high school, he was at a Christian school, and I did a film called God's Not Dead. I did not play a nice guy in that. And everybody watched the film, and the school went to see it, and they're like, dude, your dad's a jerk. Like, no, he's acting. He's acting. But I mean, I think it's so important to have those conversations, and those kind of films and shows, they have the families have conversations because of them. When you're putting out this other content for just a fringe number of people, they'll die. And that's why, companies like, I'm not going to pick on Disney, but Disney has not done a remarkable job with their franchises, rebranding, changing things. And look at the success that Bill has had. And I think it's wonderful.
The courage to do that, though, is so incredible.
It
because
is.
without talent like you
That's
in
right.
God's Not Dead, it isn't the franchise that it is.
That's right.
Thank you, good sir.
I've had the opportunity to be in 2 of the God's Not Dead movies. We met at the Dallas premiere of God's Not Dead, In God We Trust. If you haven't seen it, it's a powerful movie because it mirrors what is actually happening in our society today. It's the spiritual warfare that we all are watching play out. Talk about this Gen Z revival that is happening. We're seeing it in sports with players. We're seeing it with coaches. Ohio State University, guys, they just had 2,000 young people accept Christ on campus. This is happening. So talk about how we're going to come alongside those young people and help catapult them into being the next generation of godly, faith-filled leaders.
I think you talk about it openly and you have those conversations. If we had this conversation 3 years ago, oh my gosh, what a horrible conversation to have. But now it's okay to have this conversation. And they should. And my son's 24. Does that make him a Gen Z guy? Does that qualify as Gen Z?
So.
Does it? In that area, I was worried about our youth. I really was.
Yeah.
Until I started talking to him and some of his friends. And there's some common sense out there.
Yeah.
And I think it's wonderful. And so doing this, putting out content that they can watch and talk about and showing them, again, politics downstream from culture, put it out there and hopefully change the culture. And I think it's happening.
How are you going for that audience? Because we know right now, looking at the statistics, Bible sales are up with Gen Zers. Young men are returning to church in droves. And there are young people who are really returning back to traditional values, faith-filled families. So now it's up to us to come alongside them and help them fly and shine.
The woke left went so far in the other direction, and it was so offensive that it's moved people more toward, faith and family and country and supporting the values they love.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you, what are you working on? What do we need to be looking for? We have about a minute, 15 seconds left. What should we be looking from your company? And Dean, I'm going to ask you the same question.
Wow. Well, we will.
Give us a scoop.
That's a big question. I want to work with him. We have two great, our two biggest platforms. Our flagship is streaming and is PureFlix, which we mentioned, and Great American Family. Both are great and successful, and we're very pleased with both. We have a lot of original content on both, original series, original movies, and we'll keep doing that.
Awesome.
I hope to work for him for a long time. That's what I want to do. I want to keep making content that gets people thinking and talking. Sometimes I'll be the bad guy, but you need a good bad guy with a good message in the film. So I hope to just keep making more and more content and putting it out there and having conversations like this that further our nation and our faith, and I hope it's successful.
And all of us as believers, we are part of this. Each of us has a role to play. So quickly, in 10 seconds or less, what is your message to everyone sitting in here in terms of their role in making this happen and getting this out in their communities?
Support projects and channels and platforms like Bill's. That's 100% it. I give great support to it, and that support means everything.
And be proud of it, and never shy away from it, never run from it, and always be who you are.
And we will continue to give God the glory. Let's thank Bill and Dean Kane, and thank all of you. God bless you, and God bless this great United States of America.
Thank you, fans.
Welcome to CPAC. At Great American Media, we celebrate what matters most: faith, family, and country. Today, we invite you to experience storytelling that uplifts, inspires, and reflects the values we all cherish. PureFlix is your home for entertainment without compromise. With faith-driven movies and series, we bring you stories that strengthen hearts, uplift spirits, and honor what truly matters. and on Great American Family, where faith leads, where stories inspire. Welcome home. Whether it's Christmas all year long, heartfelt romances, or movies that bring families together, we are here to make you feel at home. At Great American Media, our foundation is quality. Our promise is to always deliver entertainment that aligns with your faith and values. Thank you for standing with us as we stand for faith, family, and country. Enjoy CPAC. And remember, when you choose Great American Media, you choose entertainment that lifts you up. Join us and experience the best in faith and family entertainment.
The only homicide on January 6th was the unlawful shooting death of Ashley Babbitt. This major new lawsuit that Judicial Watch filed, a $30 million wrongful death lawsuit against the United States government. She was unarmed. There were no weapons visible. She was shot in the shoulder and killed by Lieutenant Byrd. He popped out and shot her dead. Ashley was shot in cold blood, and the rule of law requires justice for her.
Who's AARP really watching out for these days? They've made billions partnering with big health insurance corporations while opposing reforms seniors want, like applying big discounts to medicines directly at the pharmacy counter. Instead, AARP supports liberal price-setting schemes, giving politicians, not seniors, control over any so-called Medicare savings with no guarantees. Funds won't be spent on unrelated programs or pad big insurers' profits. If AARP and Congress believe America's seniors aren't watching, think again. Paid for by American Commitment.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a conversation with U.S. Envoy for Special Missions, Ambassador Richard Grenell, and Politico White House Bureau Chief Dasha Burns.
See, they're going to be nice to you.
That's right. Look at this. Hey everyone, it is his fault that a Politico journalist is on this stage, so don't get mad at me, get mad at the ambassador. All right, I have so much I want to talk with you about, but the number one thing that everyone's been asking me about you is a new hat that you're wearing at the Kennedy Center.
Oh.
What? What is going on? How did that happen? How big an art connoisseur are you? Walk me through the behind the scenes there.
Well, we want to make art great again.
And what does that mean?
No, look, I think, I don't know for sure, but I think the frustration that President Trump had is that the Kennedy Center has no cash on hand, no reserves, and they have been paying for the salaries with the debt reserves while taking around $40 million of public money. And so you can't have that. If you're going to take public money, then you get to have public input. And so what we're going to say at the Kennedy Center is, first of all, we got to clean up the financial situation. We have to do the big productions that the masses and the public want to see. We want to have really good programming. So the first thing that we're doing, I think the big change is for everybody to know you got to be at the Kennedy Center in December, because we are doing a big, huge celebration of the birth of Christ at Christmas. How crazy is it to think that we're going to celebrate Christ at Christmas with a big traditional production to celebrate what we are all celebrating in the world during Christmas time, which is the birth of Christ.
Do you worry at all, though? I know there have been some folks who have been dropping out of performing at the Kennedy Center in protest. Do you worry about being able to bring in big artists to the center?
No, we don't, because we already have them, and I think it's a real misnomer. But let me just say, there's one thing that got a lot of attention that this group dropped out, and it was all blamed on President Trump and me. And we've tried to correct the record, and I think we're going to have to do a more direct job, because it wasn't true. They had the Kennedy Center, before I arrived, before President Trump was the chairman, the Kennedy Center had made some decisions about this individual group to change them because ticket sales were atrocious. And so they said, you know what, we can't have this because we really don't have any money and we can't be spending on things that aren't bringing in revenue. And so they made this change before we came, and then it was announced, and suddenly it was, you know, the gay men's chorus or something was dropping out because of Trump. That wasn't true. And it was replaced with some other things. That happens all the time. So I would just challenge
you.
You
would welcome the gay men's choir to perform if they were interested?
Well, first of all, right now, if you're going to take public money, you have to prove that you actually can bring in revenue. We don't have any money. The woman that had my job before me was getting paid $1.3 million a year, and we had no money.
How much are you getting paid for this?
Way, way, way less.
But let me ask real quick though, because we were talking about this a little bit backstage. How did this happen? Because you're going to Venezuela, you're going to Munich, and then suddenly you wake up and you're running the Kennedy Center?
Well, again, I think it was a frustration from the president that there was no money at the Kennedy Center.
But why you?
Content
And how did it
crazy.
come about?
I don't know. You'd have to ask him. Look, I love the arts. I'm somebody who, goes already to lots of different art styles. I appreciate a whole bunch of different styles of art. If I started naming all these things, you would be like, wait a minute.
You're a connoisseur. We believe it. So listen, I want to talk about some of the major conflicts that we're seeing around the world right now that
Sure.
I know you've been working on. Number one, I mean, I think this has been top of the list for everyone at the White House, is the situation in Ukraine. In your conversations with President Trump, what do you hear from him about what's going on with his relationship with President Zelensky? Because it's clear that they've never necessarily been best friends, but it feels like in the last few days in particular, that relationship has soured. What's going on?
Look, I think, I'm so thankful that we have a president who's concentrating on peace. And that's what Donald Trump has just said. Let's stop. Remember that we handed Joe Biden total peace in the Middle East and total peace in Europe. He handed us a war in the Middle East and a war in Europe. And we can never forget that. So I do get a little bit frustrated with reporters when they're trying to say, oh, your decision now isn't perfect. I'm like, yeah, we were put in a hole. We were put in a terrible situation. There are no great solutions right now. So you're going to have to be patient with us that we're trying to dig the Biden people out from this terrible $100 billion hole that they created. That's the first thing. The second thing is I don't think it's fair to say that somehow President Trump has met with President Zelensky 4 or 5 times. The Trump team has met with the Ukrainians and Zelensky another 4 or 5 times. So let's say we're up to 10 times meeting with the Ukrainians. I never once heard from the media an outrage that the Russians weren't invited to those talks. However, the one time that the Trump team reaches out to say, how about we talk to the Russians? There's this hue and cry from the Europeans and everybody to say, why aren't the Ukrainians
involved? And I think
involved?
it's because the Russians are the aggressors in this situation. And that's another question I wanted to ask you. President Trump has blamed Ukraine recently for starting the war. You know better than anyone that it was Russian aggression actually back in 2014. People forget that this goes over a decade back. But it was Russia that invaded Ukraine. So do you have a sense of why President Trump is making these claims now that Ukraine started the war?
I think what President Trump is saying very clearly is we have to stop this war. He is somebody who's concentrating on saying to both sides, let's talk to both sides and figure out how we stop this. Again, we have terrible choices because of the Biden team. There's not a lot of great choices. And so, is there frustration that things are not perfect in Ukraine right now? Yeah, but I'm a little bit annoyed that we were handed a file that was war when we handed them a file that was peace. And so I do think that we're frustrated. And
but why make those false claims about who started the war? Why call Zelensky a dictator? What is happening there?
Look, I think the American people are really frustrated with Zelensky. I think that there's a big frustration that he's not making great choices for peace. And again, when the American people are spending hundreds of billions of dollars, there's a frustration. Let's go back, you said 2014. Let's go back just to the beginning of this war, where Joe Biden messaged for more than 30 days that he knew through intelligence that a war was absolutely coming. The Europeans and the Biden administration all did one thing, which was prepare for more war. They talked about more funding for war. They battened down the hatches. They got hardware in there. No one was talking about peace. I actually think it's pretty immoral if the president of the United States says we're having a war in 30 days and we know for sure, and no one shows up in Moscow and Kiev to try to say, let's do diplomacy, let's stop a war. And now we're $100 billion later, and so there's a frustration.
So you said President Zelensky isn't making the choices for peace. What do you think are those choices that he should make to bring an end to this, that he's not making now?
First of all, hundreds of billions of dollars of American money, again, I'll say that, and a whole bunch is missing. So we immediately say, okay, mismanagement of funds. What we want to see is talks with Putin. I don't think that talking means that you're weak. I actually think talking is a tactic to get to a goal. And so we've seen with President Trump, he can show up with Kim Jong-un, and we need to be able to have these conversations with the Russians. Look, I've done negotiations my whole life. I did Serbia-Kosovo negotiations. And I can tell you that if you're in the middle trying to bring peace, trying to make sure we're not spending hundreds of billions of dollars on war and we're saving lives, you need at least a person in the middle who can say, I'm going to talk to these guys and I'm going to talk to these guys, and I don't care what kind of criticism I get, I got to figure out a way for peace. It's not going to be perfect, Josh, I will give you that. But again, I go back to the fact of we had it perfect in terms of peace. We were handed a war, and now we're being criticized of, well, how do you dig us out of a war and you're not doing it fast enough and you're not doing it fair enough? So we're a little frustrated.
So the social media stuff, I mean, President Trump called Zelensky a dictator. Do you believe he's a dictator?
Well, I think when you reject having elections and you're not moving towards that way, that people get angry about that.
Is Putin a dictator?
Of course.
Putin is a dictator?
Yeah, of course.
So the stuff that we're seeing on social media.
But I want to say one thing that's really important in this conversation. Donald Trump has done something different than Republican foreign policy leaders have done for 25 years.
This is a paradigm shift, what he's doing.
We articulate very clearly under Donald Trump, we don't do regime change. We are going to deal with the countries that are in front of us. And our criteria is not how do we make that country better, how do we make America better, stronger, and more prosperous for the people that live here.
So I was in the East Room when President Trump held the presser with Prime Minister Netanyahu, and he announced the plans for the Riviera of the Middle East in Gaza. Is that part of the deal talk? Is that a serious plan? What is your sense of where President Trump is headed with that idea?
Well, first of all, let's start from the fact that he's a great negotiator. So we know that he's negotiating all of the time. Secondly, I think, again, I sound like, I keep repeating myself, but we had peace there. We had peace agreements, right? The media and the intelligence agencies told President Trump if you moved the embassy, there would be outright war. We know the opposite happened. Peace agreements broke out. And so I think you got to say to Donald Trump, you know how to deliver peace. You certainly know how to negotiate Americans into a peaceful situation. And so my kind of attitude is let's watch and see how this plays out, because I have full faith that Donald Trump is a great negotiator, and he's delivered peace before, and he's going to have to do it again now because of the Biden regime.
Regardless of what it looks like, us getting involved in Gaza, I mean, President Trump has talked about getting out of foreign entanglements. That's a promise that he made on the campaign trail. How does that jive with his promise?
I think that's an incredibly fair question.
Thank you. You hear that, guys?
No, I do. I think it's a legitimate question to say, wait a minute, you've said this.
Yeah.
again, what I think the thinking and the criteria is how do we deliver peace? And I've spent 8 years at the UN, and what's been happening in the Palestinian territories and in Gaza, we've been talking about for decades. We were talking about
the
this.
U.S. still has a role to play and should play a role in peace in the Middle East, even with the America First agenda?
Yes, but that doesn't immediately mean that we jump to boots on the ground. And I would say the other thing is, I'm a diplomat. You're going to hear me talk about diplomacy, not about war and the things of war. But I will say that as kind of a chastisement to the public debate right now, when you talk about security assurances, stop assuming that security assurances are just simply American boots or UN boots and guns. I can't think of a better security assurance than private equity folks on the ground. American businessmen on the ground trying to do deals and help rebuild or help bring economic development. If you've got a bunch of Americans or Westerners even that are in Ukraine, that are in the Black Sea, doing economic development, I can't think of a better way to have a security assurance.
And I know we're running low on time here. I do want to talk to you about the wildfires in Los Angeles. I know you know people who have lost homes. I think anyone that knows anyone in LA knows people who have had tremendous loss there. How are the recovery efforts going? I know the president at the roundtable in the Palisades tasked you with some of that effort. How are things going with FEMA? We know Democrats and Republicans can agree that FEMA doesn't always work effectively and quickly. What are the bottlenecks and what are you doing there?
Well, thanks for asking. I think that the reality is that the federal response is mostly money. And so we are going to have strings on the money that we give to California. They've made terrible.
There will be conditions, okay.
There will be conditions. We're talking about those conditions now. As a Californian, I'm all for it because I don't have faith that if we went back and we just gave California hundreds of millions of dollars, they were going to go back to their same old ways of not giving enough water, having dangerous situations on the ground when it comes to forestry. It's going to happen again.
So what are some of those strings you're talking about?
Well, I don't want to commit too much, but
give us a little.
But I will say this. Everyone who's involved knows that the California Coastal Commission is a disaster and it needs to absolutely be defunded. And from just a way to think about government, we already have local government making these decisions. Layering it on with the California Coastal Commission is a terrible idea. It's an unelected group of people who are crazy woke left, and one person can stop progress, and they've made California less safe. I think squeezing their federal funds, making sure they don't get funds, putting strings on them to get rid of the California Coastal Commission is going to make California better.
While we're on California, since you have so many ideas for the state, are we going to see Richard Grinnell run for governor of California?
Honestly, it's not in my plan unless Kamala Harris runs for governor. If Kamala runs,
you're jumping in?
I mean, here's the thing. We already know who she is. We've spent hundreds of millions of dollars to define who Kamala Harris is. If she thinks that she's going to run for governor of California, a Republican is going to win, and I may not be able to resist trying to run against her.
Making news here at CPAC. Lastly, before I let you go, we talked about the Kennedy Center. You've got that performance coming up in December, but what is your ideal performance at the Kennedy Center if you could have anyone perform?
Dolly Parton.
Dolly Parton. Is that an official invitation?
Of course. I'd love to see it.
All right, Mr. Grinnell, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Hey, it's Matt Schlapp with CPAC. You know, we've had a huge problem in this country with election fraud. But at CPAC, that's not a problem. Our only problem is getting each and every one of you to vote. So look at your badge. You have a number on that badge. And get your phone out and vote on all the issues that matter. And my guess is you probably like what Trump's doing as well. And we'll have the results for you very soon.
Wherever human freedom is under attack, in courtrooms, legislatures, and the public square, we stand ready to defend it. This is why Alliance Defending Freedom exists.
Supreme Court victory for a Christian woman who was taken to court for standing firm in her beliefs.
The First Amendment follows a golden rule. If we want to protect speech for ourselves, then we need to protect it for others.
A video released this week by ADF International has attracted over 34 million views and even attracted comment from Elon Musk. It concerned a pair of Swiss parents who have had their child taken away from them because they objected to her gender transition.
We're not just here to stop the erosion of liberty for this moment alone. We are here to keep the door open for the gospel. And when the gospel does its work, truth doesn't just hold its ground. It advances. It sets people free for generations to come. This is our mission at Alliance Defending Freedom.
Every institution today is under attack. The home, the church, the government. And many people are asking, what is the truth? Jesus Christ claimed the ultimate truth. Are you willing to face the truth?
Do you think the MK Ultra project ever actually ended?
The Central Intelligence Agency is actively involved in mind manipulation.
We all answer to one God and one Savior, and He's there to change your life for the better.
During my second term, we will fight for Alaska like never before.
I'm excited about what we can do with President Trump in the office.
We'll work together to provide affordable energy to Alaska and allies all over the world.
More investment, more certainty, production, more exploration.
Thank you to everyone in Alaska, and thank you to your great governor. I look forward to a long and enduring future relationship. Drill, baby, drill.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the new G.I. Joes. Please welcome former U.S. Navy SEAL Rob O'Neill, UFC fighter and Special Forces operator Tim Kennedy, and your host of the Carl Higbie Frontline on Newsmax, Carl Higbie.
Yes, what up, Drago? I love you, brother.
All right. Well, they gave us open mics, no script, and a bunch of guys who used to shoot people. No, so the last, we were talking 12 years actually, not just last 4, have been disastrous for the military, not only domestically, but on a global stage.
That's the truth.
Yeah,
pretty madness. Been losing wars everywhere that we look. On multiple continents, we've been losing our strategic positions and strategic bases that we have fought for decades, from Africa, literally every single continent, to Eastern Europe, and obviously in the global war on terror after 20 years, the most embarrassing withdrawal in American history.
Yeah, well, Rob, let's talk about that. We had the withdrawal from Iraq. I was in Iraq in 2009 when we were drawing down. I know you guys were in and out of the same areas. I was watching us pull resources out, denying the fact that there were bad guys still doing bad things, that were killing coalition troops, and yet they wouldn't let us get them because of the perception that the war was over.
Yeah, the perception of the war being over is something we've been doing wrong, and that's getting too political. And I don't mean just the politics of the country. I'm talking personal power for politicians, making a promise to get out of a place because that was said in the campaign, or in the case of Afghanistan on 9/11, and just making decisions that don't make sense, because a lot of stuff, I don't know if you noticed, in DC doesn't make sense. But the way that I put Iraq was one of those things where we shouldn't have invaded, but we shouldn't have left the way we did. And when the convoys coming from north to south, we should have hit them with some A-10s. ISIS is gone, didn't do that because I guess we could be nice to the enemy. But the thing with Afghanistan that I noticed too is if you took the Bin Laden team and asked them to come up with the worst possible way out of Afghanistan, we would have come up with exactly the way the Biden administration did it. And that's all because they wanted to be out before 9/11. We lost a lot of people because of that.
Right, but the unwillingness to actually define the enemy was the bigger problem. It was, we're going to work with them, we're going to give them money. I mean, hell, we left, what, $80 billion worth of stuff, including night vision and Humvees over there. They didn't define the enemy, and therefore we couldn't defeat it.
I mean, that's the story of old as time, right? Whether it's Vietnam, the Korea War, us being able to define who we're fighting is something that it's necessary for us to know who to beat. You know, if you take the military and you point them, I still believe, even though we are in a dangerous position with Secretary Hegseth trying to fight to bring back the strength, we still have, without a doubt, the most powerful military on the planet. And I'm so inspired by the young men and women that, especially recently, have raised their hand to serve. But watching Pete Hegseth, I mean, it's the truth.
Yeah.
In Germany, training with the Special Forces unit, like with the Hulk running right in front of him.
That guy was huge.
He was huge.
That's a big dude.
I'm just like, that's the America that I know and that I love.
Put that on a recruiting poster. I mean, Rob, we had record low recruiting over the last 4 years. It turns out if you tell a bunch of people that were in your ranks that they don't like them anymore, they go home.
Yeah.
And we had posters of people with two moms, or transgender this, or DEI that. It's like, well, this is a place where we're supposed to put bullets in bad guys' faces.
That's it too. And the military can be very simple. The way you're successful in the military is master the basics, keep it simple, and leave the diplomacy to the diplomats, right? Go in, crush people, and leave. That's all it's got to be. And then we start getting into this woke ideology with, okay, you're raised by two women in San Francisco. Great, fine. I don't think ISIS is afraid of that. I don't think Al-Qaeda is afraid of that. And even like Quds for Palestine. If they went over there,
we'd throw them off.
If I went over there with them, they'd murder them before they murdered me. They don't like them.
Yeah.
But the problem is we're trying to play nice with everybody. It's like, well, I don't know if it's you don't understand them, or like we were talking backstage about the enemy. You just said just now on stage. We're bad at defining the enemy, and we just think that. Here's a little thing I learned as a battle interrogator, especially dealing with terrorists. They lie.
No.
Yeah, they'll lie. What? Yeah, they'll lie to your face.
Weird.
Drago, back me up on that.
But we can sit here and joke about this, but there's some serious work. And look, I actually talked to Secretary Hegseth this morning about it. Was trying to get him to call in, but he has this little thing like managing the whole country's, DOD. But he's got a serious job ahead of him. I mean, they've already increased recruiting in 30 days. Weird how if you put warfighters, you attract more warfighters. But in order to do that, I mean, you're talking about a massive deficit, not only from a financial standpoint, where we've spent 3 times as much on aircraft carrier budgets, where we've massively reduced the force. The COVID vaccine was one of the greatest reductions of good men and women, and we have to build that back. How do we start?
It's a great question, and I think from the top down, seeing the Secretary of Defense out doing PT with the troops in the morning, it's not just the number in which we were failing to recruit for the past 4 years, but it's who we have been recruiting. We're recruiting, and I'm so grateful for everybody that raised their hand to serve. We want strong, fearless people that want to be part of the most lethal fighting force on the planet. That's who we want. We want them as a deterrent. We want the rest of the world and every single one of our peer level adversaries to look at our men and women in uniform and be like, nah, not freaking worth it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the other thing too, is Rob, you walked in a door, shot the world's most wanted criminal in the face, and didn't think twice about it. How do we get more people? Thank you. How do we get more people that want to join because of that versus college benefits, which are great, but also, pushing DEI, pushing personal growth, and things like this? How do we get more people that want to join because they want to do what you did?
I think it starts with the recruiting, and it impacted me more to see the Marine killing the dragon with the sword. I really like that. Plus the movie Navy SEALs with Charlie Sheen. That was really
greatest movie ever. That's why I became a SEAL.
100% accurate. But it's got to start with that too. And we're in a place too, and it's the generation with staring at your phone, not going to the gym, stuff like that. We just lower the standards. It's like, well, you can't do the set amount of pushes. We'll just cut it in half. And I think that, the good men and women are out there. We just haven't been focusing on them. They're great people. There always has been. The leadership has gotten bad simply because you get to a certain level, be it senior enlisted or senior officer, you become political because you want the next job right down the street here. The way to do it is literally get back to the basics, which is forward defense, alliance solidarity, and deterrence. And we're just simply not going to deter people by being nice, but the military's job is not to be nice. Again, we do have public affairs, great. We also have infantry who will swim over the horizon at night and kill you. And that's what we need.
And not to mention, we will complain about it the whole time we're swimming.
Oh, yeah.
Why do SEALs post-career don't like cold water, or
they torture us with it?
It's wet.
The water's wet. I've seen dudes in combat go an extra mile just to not get their feet. Yeah, man. I'm not making that up. America's finest, just keep me dry.
Yeah, exactly.
With recruiting, the standards have to be set. They have to be met. They cannot be moved. They cannot be bent. It has to be merit-based. If you're going to fly a helicopter, it's because you're the best person that can be on the stick.
Absolutely.
If you're going to be pulling down night vision to go on a mission, it's because you passed every single one of the standards to be there, and you deserve to be there, whether you're wearing a trident, a green beret, or you are proudly just running down, as every single infantryman knows, to shoot, move, communicate, and medicate. You met the standard, and you deserve to be there.
Right. Well, that's the other thing too. A 7.62 doesn't understand the difference if you're black, white, blue, green, 5'7", 5'4", 250, 150. It doesn't matter. So why did we get away from a general standard? And now, if you're a 40-year-old woman in the military, you can get 24 minutes to run 2 miles. But if you're a 22-year-old male, you have to do it in 18 minutes. Like, how did we deviate?
Well, I mean, again, we need to get back to we deviated just by, we saw when I joined in 1996, uniform, bad haircut, and all we saw was green or blue. That's it. But now we're to the point, because of a softer outlook, or because we're so connected, just be yourself. Express yourself. That's not the military's job to express yourself. You'll be fine. But again, too, like 16 and a half years in the Navy, with the men and women with whom I served, we never had a problem with sexism or racism, because it just didn't make sense. We knew each other. Even when I was getting out, don't ask, don't tell was the big thing. And I remember in Afghanistan, this is after the Bin Laden raid, looking at a bunch of Navy SEALs, like, I know damn well some of you are gay. I don't really care. And at the bottom line, what you do behind closed doors is your business. The big question is, can you carry me with body armor after I've been shot and bring me home to my wife? That's it.
I agree with that. We had a guy in my first platoon who got out of the military, and he was like, guys, I got to tell you, I'm gay. And we're like, yeah, we know.
And we don't care.
Nobody cared.
Nobody cares. Sorry, man.
Seriously, but that's it too. He could do his job, and nobody cares. But then you get involved with the media, and they just want to spin it because they want the talking points to badmouth whichever Republican's running.
So let's talk, Secretary Hegseth comes in now, 8% cuts across the board. A lot of people on the other side are saying, well, hey, this is going to diminish our fighting force. And I look at that, I'm like, look, we're still using floppy disks and fax machines. So some of the, like the DMV is more technologically advanced in some areas of the Pentagon right now. So there's a vast, massive redundancy within the Department of Defense, and how do you get to the bottom of that without even slightly creeping on the mission of capability?
And when if you're trying to become effective and more efficient, the first thing that you do is you recognize fat and you cut it from it. So whether it's fraud, waste, and abuse, and in some instances we're seeing DOJ just come through with a battle axe to do that, which is awesome.
Yeah.
On the military side, I would definitely argue, and I know personally, as I think everyone else does, and if you've been in the military, that there are good redundancies, like a good PACE plan, primary, alternate, contingent, and emergency, and on the communication side, on like multiple routes in and out. But when it comes to bureaucratic regulation, and the military is not supposed to have that, what is called the kill chain. How effectively can I take from a decision to do something to the execution of it? How fast is that thing? And that kill chain has gotten so many bureaucratic steps in there. We have become ineffective and inefficient. Those have to be cut.
Yeah, well, that's the danger of the big corporate mindset too. I mean, you guys know as well as I do. You get the green light to do an op, and you have to get it approved up the chain. And by that time, the guy's already left his house and fled the country.
That's true. Yeah, and I mean, it comes back to the efficiency that they're doing right now. You need redundancy in place, to say, like with submarine warfare. If one gets an order, another one needs it too in case it gets hit. No one knows that stuff like that. But the Pentagon hasn't passed a budget. An audit hasn't done it, and you got to start with that and we see it down at the platoon level. We're like, well, here's our budget for the year, and we have to spend it all, or we won't get it next year. It should be the opposite. If you're more efficient, maybe these guys are squared away. We can get them more work. We can get them more funding. But it's almost like the free money thing, where we're just going to get it again as long as we get rid of it. And
it also seems if you cut even 8%, let's just round it up to an even 40 for good time's sake, and you will remove all those limitations, but you'll also remove a significant amount of processes that were put in place after World War II, a time where we have now quadrupled our number of generals, and now I would say effectively we lost the war in Iraq and Afghanistan because the enemy gets a say in that. How do you rebuild that within the ranks? I mean, there's obviously morale has already gone way up under Donald Trump, big time. But how do you rebuild that with generational support?
So, right now with General George and the Sergeant Major of the Army, Mike Weimer. Mike Weimer, former unit guy, was part of the special missions units, also a special forces guy. They clearly have said time and time again, they want to focus on lethality, maneuverability, flexibility. And these are things that bureaucratic systems and multiple checks and balances always slow down. They want kids being able to 3D print a tool that would have cost through a government contract on a named project, tens of millions of dollars.
And 7 years to approve.
That's right. Yeah. And all of that, we have to innovate. We have to innovate our way out of this, and we have to become the 2025 fast, lethal fighting force where the rest of the world is like, buddy, want nothing to do with that kid from Oklahoma that just throws hay bales, and now we're giving him the best tools possible to go and kill his enemy.
Right, and something on that too, that you point, I think just we were talking about Secretary Hegseth working out with the guys and the big monster dude. That's something else right there you haven't seen with the SecDef. That's what you need. It's always been impressive when the general officer, the general or the admiral, comes and talks to the E5 mafia.
Right.
Hegseth, Mr. Secretary, sorry, Pete, can like I've always been saying we need a mid-level officer with combat experience to take the Secretary of Defense, because he will talk to the troops. And that when you're working out with the troops, you can ask them simple stuff. Right. Where are you from? Why did you join? What are you anticipating? What do you expect out of this? How's morale? Okay, morale's bad. Why? Morale's good. Why? Find out why. And then obviously it is a pyramid, top down type stuff, but they might want to think about potentially changing that up a little bit.
But also flattening the organization, allowing that direct feedback. I remember when I was in, the Admiral would come down and they'd be like, hey, look, if you have any questions for the Admiral, clear it through us first call. You're not allowed to ask any questions whatsoever. But it's, and I raised my hand, this is in 2009 after we just gotten back. And I said, what's the desired end result in Iraq? I mean, I got in a lot of trouble for that, but they had no answer.
Yeah. It was heartbreaking on the ground in Afghanistan, in August of 2021, all the way to the 26th of the Abbey Gate bombing. That sent a shockwave through all of GWAT and recruiting. Nobody likes to lose. America's not built to lose. We're built to be the most powerful fighting force on the planet, the military is, and the country that's the strongest that's ever existed in the existence of our species. Greatest country ever. So our young people need to look at the service members, men and women in uniform with the flag, and with pride, be like, I want to be like Rob. I want to be like Carl. Right. I want to go win wars. It's time for us to start not just being preventative, but for everyone to know that the next war that we go into, we are not just going to fight it. We're not there to perpetuate the military-industrial complex. We are there to destroy our enemy in the most violent way possible.
There you go. And I just want to point out that the Army guy said that they want to be like the two Navy guys there. But that said, I mean, look, we have 11 carrier battle groups, so they're not in reserve for someday. We're pretty much there now. Why do we care what Europe thinks? Why do we care what other countries think? Why are we catering, especially policy within the DoD, to what other countries think when we can do whatever we want because our aircraft carriers outrun their jet skis?
That's true too. I mean, I remember seeing a recruiting poster with somebody's water skiing behind a carrier and people laughing at it. I was like, no, that could happen. That's the fastest ship we got. Yeah. And I can't tell you how fast it goes. It was pretty fast. But talking about Europe too, moving forward, every time we've left Europe, we had to go back. Yeah. So we got to be careful about that now too. But the problem is with Europe being so weak, most of them aren't paying the 2% GDP they're supposed to be paying. But we're not going to be able to deter China, especially a China-Russia coalition, while we're trying to hold the hand of the people that are afraid of Ukraine or going into Poland. I don't think they're going into Poland, but regardless, we're not going to, the fight, you got to figure the 5,000 miles of a supply chain we're going to need in the Pacific.
Right.
When China within the next few years, tries to take Taiwan, with those other allies over there dealing with a much bigger enemy, and then you're getting into the AI thing, the drone fighting. I'm so glad that wasn't prevalent when we were there, but microwave weapons, stuff like that. I mean, we're still back in time. We do have smarter people than this panel. They're working, but they got to be smart about being.
That's a pretty low bar if you don't know for us. But no, I mean that's 100% right. The technology is almost outpacing the need for some manning, not all, but. How do you balance the technology versus the man on the ground?
This is a question that we've asked every single war and every single conflict. Ultimately, it really does come down to the men and women on the ground.
Yes.
It comes down to the quality of the people, their integrity, and their work ethic. And I love this country. I'm so proud that I get to wear the uniform and the flag, and I get to look to my left and my right, and I am just so inspired by the strength of our service members and the men and women in this country. And I have total confidence that we have the best and the brightest in the world that are answering that question. And they are giving the best tools to the best men and women in uniform to then go and both prevent our next war and, heaven forbid, if we do have to fight it, win it.
Yeah. Let's talk about kids. Rob, I know you got a new one.
Yeah, I got a birthday on Sunday.
Yeah.
My daughter Valor turns 1.
So, congrats. So, yeah, I have 3 myself. And for the last 4 years, and the first time in my life, I come from a somewhat military family. I would not have advised my children to join the military. How do we make sure that no one ever wants to have that side of a conversation again?
That's a tough conversation too. With again, the politics getting in, the DC swamp ruining everything. It's a tough conversation to have too, because a couple months ago, someone asked, "Are your children going to join the military?" I don't know. Maybe you tell them get straight A's, get an academy, and learn how to fly something. But the other stuff, I don't know. But now, it's turning the tide. But they got to maintain that. Right now, we're in the honeymoon phase still, even though it's Donald Trump's second term. You got to maintain that momentum.
Yeah.
And again, too, we have the great patriots in this country too. The problem is, we have X now, but a lot of the voices get shut down. I don't know if you know the shadow banning and stuff like that. The Patriotic Americans have been shut down before. And we got to, hopefully, with some of the people coming over from the social media side, getting more conservative. We can hope, but we'll see what happens.
I kind of want to leave it at this: is as we move out of this phase. We got 3 years and 11 months left. I feel like a lot of countries have kind of said,
I think we're going to win the next 6 elections.
I sure hope so. But
at a bare minimum.
Yeah,
minimum.
Zero reason why we shouldn't have at least the next 12 years.
We're fixing this country.
So, with 30 seconds or less to solve the world's problems, how do you get to a place where we install mechanisms that even politics can't corrupt it?
Yeah, building that beachhead where these are things that are going to stand the test of time, that are going to stand a midterm election, and then the next national election. A strong thing is harder to kill. Like this idea, to answer that question simply, a strong soldier, a strong military, they're just flat out harder to defeat. So I want strength, masculinity, power, big, murderous men to be running towards the military, to put the flag on their shoulder to serve this country. That's what I want.
Who don't really care about people's feelings.
They do not. They care about winning, and they want to be strong when they do it.
Rob, Tim, been a pleasure.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Newsmax has been terrific.
President Trump is right. Millions are switching to Newsmax. It's the fastest growing streaming service in America. You don't need those woke streaming services anymore. Just get Newsmax Plus. Watch the best shows like Greg Kelly, Rob Schmidt, Greta Van Susteren, and Rob Finnerty.
Greg Kelly over at Newsmax. The Newsmax people have been really, really terrific.
Gain access to exclusive documentaries, series, and special briefings. It's free to start. So go to NewsmaxPlus.com now to sign up and watch Newsmax anytime, anywhere.
Hey, it's Matt Schlapp with CPAC. We've had a huge problem in this country with election fraud. But at CPAC, that's not a problem. Our only problem is getting each and every one of you to vote. So look at your badge. You have a number on that badge. And get your phone out and vote on all the issues that matter. And my guess is you probably like what Trump's doing as well. And we'll have the results for you very soon.
This lunacy will end on my first day back in the Oval Office. I promise you it will end immediately.
John Trump, do solemnly swear.
RSBN, by the way, how good is RSBN? They do a good job. So beautiful.
Creators, it's time to take control. With Bursts, you create impactful content in seconds. Powered by blockchain, your content and earnings are protected, transparent, and yours to control. Play TV isn't just a platform. It's a community of creators building a new future together. Your freedom starts when you press play.
Still under construction, but already the biggest news station in Poland. The only international TV station that interviewed Donald J. Trump. I'd like to say hello to the Polish people. Poland's leftist government wants to destroy us, but we are not backing down. We're building conservative, English-speaking European news station. Join the movement. Support the revolution.
Make Europe great again. This is Republica, the home of free speech.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is CPAC in action. Please welcome founder Ditat Dose Group, Kobe Schabander, founder of Walkaway, Brandon Straka, CPAC chairman, Matt Schlapp, and your host of American Sunrise on Real America on RAV, Dr. Gina Loudon.
I'm going to go here.
Put me there. All right, everybody. Welcome, first of all. How amazing has this CPAC been for you? Woo! And you know, CPAC, the thing I love about it, I've been coming for decades now. Phyllis Schlafly actually brought me to my very first CPAC. Now I come every year with Real America's Voice and love talking to all of you. But my favorite thing about CPAC is it is what President talks about all the time, action, action, action. And so that's what we're going to talk about with you today, what we did right in this last election. If the message that's coming through to you as really the actors in the action, right? If that's the right message, because the people on this panel have the expertise to tell you all of the above. So I think what we should do is start with just a brief intro, if you guys can, just a couple of sentences about who you are and what you did in this last election.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Obe Shabander. I was in the field in Michigan. My group launched the Arab Americans for a Better America, or APAC. And thanks to a great deal of CPAC's support, we set up shop in Michigan early on in the campaign as an outside group, working very closely with our favorite ambassador, Rick Grinnell, to reach out to the Middle Eastern community, Muslims, Christians in Michigan, and we helped turn Michigan deep red with a lot of first-time voters who had never voted Republican ever in their life, voting for President Trump because they knew that he was a president for peace.
Hey everybody, I'm Brandon Strzok. I'm the founder of the #Walkaway campaign. Don't get a big head, Brandon. We are the largest national movement of former Democrats walking away from the Democratic Party at this point. In 2018, we started a national conversation about the need for people to walk away from the divisive, hateful Democratic Party and political left. As of today, Walkaway has grown to over 750,000 people who have joined our movement, tens of thousands of people who have created their written and video testimonials about leaving the Democratic Party. And dare I say that I believe that the 2024 election was the walk-away election. And I'm not just saying that. I'm not just saying that because we walked away with the presidency, and we walked away with the House, and we walked away with the Senate, and we walked away with the popular vote, and we walked away with every swing state in the country, but because massive numbers of minorities walked away from the Democratic Party in 2024 and led us to victory.
Well, you know this guy. Do you have any sentences you want to say about what you do?
Well, I just want to say that my wife, Mercy, just walked in. I think she's doing a great job. Thanks for coming to the... I was told that there's going to be some harsh judges of how I do in this panel, so I'm very nervous right now about what the scores are going to be. In my household, you have to do a good job where I have 6 women who kind of let you know you don't do so good. But and all my kids, almost every one of my kids is here today. So if you see them, be careful because they're good staffers, I want you to know. Okay, so let me just give you a quick overview at CPAC. You guys are all very generous to us and to many other conservative groups. CPAC has, I think, a big role to play there, but Brandon's group has a big role to play there. I bet you have Michigan groups that have a big role to play there. The one thing as a conservative community, by the way, I'm preaching to myself right now. The one thing as a conservative community, which I think is the pro-America community, I'm not so sure conservative is even a word we have to use right now. We just believe in America and America's values. That we got to partner together really, really well if we're going to beat the bad guys, if we're going to beat the commies. So this is a little bit to myself. I get competitive. I think, well, that's a CPAC thing. CPAC did that. And we're doing a good job as an organization because all of you are helping us. But we all have to work together. And I have to say, to begin my comments, I think we ought to give a rousing applause to having an RNC chairman who was uber competent and did a great job in Michael Whatley. Susie Wiles, the campaign manager for Donald Trump, deserves a round of applause for being uber competent, and Chris LaCivita. Let's give them a round of applause. They're all friends of mine. They're all people I've worked with for a long time. Whatley and LaCivita, I don't even want to tell you how many decades it's been. It's a lot of decades. There's a lot of snow on the roof now. I know that. I have to comb it every morning, once a day. But beyond that, these entities, the campaign and the RNC, can only do so much. You got to have outside groups. You got to have nonprofits that will do a lot.
Right.
And I just want you to know, from a CPAC perspective, I have some of my board members here who helped me think this through. We tried to do what others weren't doing.
Right.
It was because the RNC was so competent and the campaign was so competent that I knew that they would do their pieces competently. And that's not always the case in politics. Sometimes they're not doing it competently, and then you're scared to death because you got to fill in. They did their job competently. And then we saw the seams, right? We saw the openings that we could spend time on. And for CPAC, we decided to focus on a couple things. We helped you in Michigan with Rick's direction. Right. Because we thought Michigan could be turned red. Are you here from Michigan, anyone? Wasn't that awesome? Yeah. It happened. And it didn't. And funny, when you look for the openings and the seams, it takes less revenue because nobody's playing. And so you play with smaller amounts of money. We still spent millions of dollars on this project. Mercy led the way on the Hispanic outreach. There, believe it or not, there was a lot of openings there. Thank you, sweetheart, for your great work and your voice on those things. And then we did something else. By the way, we believe that they cheat. I'm sorry if it's controversial. I'm never going to stop saying it. I'm sorry if I keep getting canceled. I believe they cheat. We think, as a board, at CPAC, we think that if we expose their cheating, put cameras on their cheating, have people watching and reporting on their cheating, writing letters to state officials about how they plan to cheat, that stops a lot of the cheating. And I believe that's what happened this time. And we did plenty of that.
Well, Matt, here's a question, though. We heard a lot about banking the vote, right, in this last election. And the other thing about this last election that I'd like each of you to speak to is that, we had Donald Trump. We're not going to have Donald Trump. Probably, well, I don't know, maybe we will. After yesterday, maybe we will have Donald Trump. But unless we change
we had
the
one George
Constitution-
Washington, and I think there's one Donald Trump.
I think there's one Donald Trump. But the question is, we hear this message all the time of bank the vote, as if that was the only thing that needed to be done in this last election. What do you all see on the horizon as we look forward into the midterms and, of course, into the next election that we need to be preparing for already, at least in our minds?
Yeah, look, there is a culture shift that we saw on the ground in Michigan. Look, we're talking about precincts where Arab Americans are a majority in the Detroit metro area, that Joe Biden, won by over 80% in 2020, that Kamala lost by over 10% this time around. That is a sea change. Kamala Harris was going around campaigning with Liz Cheney. You know what we did? We spent just a few $1,000s, put up a few billboards of just a picture of Kamala looking into the eyes of Liz Cheney, and we put war. This is the war candidate. ours is the peace candidate. Those are the simple messages that resonate with immigrant communities, with second generation communities, these communities that had never, these were deep blue precincts that had flipped red from Dearborn Heights, Hamtramck, Yemeni Americans, Chaldeans, the Bangladeshi communities, both Muslim and Christians. This is historic what is happening here. And we have a real moment to build on flipping Michigan and what I call a cultural sea change that President Trump inaugurated. And I think we have a tremendous opportunity to build on that victory in places like Michigan.
And Matt, you're so right in what you said a minute ago. When I started Walkway back in 2018, 2019, what I wanted to do is fill in what I call some of the holes and where I felt like the Republican Party needed extra help. One of those was doing outreach to minority communities. I didn't see enough of it, and a lot of it wasn't, truly effective. So we got on the road back in 2018, 2019, and haven't stopped talking to the Black community, the Hispanic community, the LGBT community, Asians, Muslims. And what we saw in 2024, I think after all these years of efforts and many other groups doing amazing work, is the Black community shifted 3% to the right. The Asian community, 5% shifted to the right. The youth vote, 7% to the right. The American Indian, 10% shift to the right. In the Hispanic community, 20% shift to the right in 2024 from 2020, which I think is absolutely astounding. And
legacy media, Brandon, is not reporting some of those numbers that you're talking about.
Well, they don't want people to know.
Yeah.
And they want to try to keep convincing people that the Republican Party is the same old Republican Party they've been able to malign as being racist and bigoted and not welcoming to minorities, when in fact we are the new America First Republican Party, which is a big diverse tent of diverse intellectual ideas and diverse people of all backgrounds.
And really, the Republican Party long has been the true big tent, but the media would really like to keep that a secret from the voting electorate. One of the things that you did that I think is so fascinating is, you always hear you've got to go into the communities, and I know CPAC supported you. You went right into those communities, and probably no one had ever been there to ask them for their vote before.
No.
Yeah.
In many instances, we held dozens of town halls, anywhere from 20 people to 200 people. And Ambassador Grinnell, God bless him, was talking to everybody.
He didn't leave Michigan.
Yeah.
He just stayed in Michigan. He worked his rear off. It was amazing to watch the posts. And you guys didn't do it in a way to get a bunch of attention.
Yes.
You did it quietly.
Yeah. People thought we were crazy. When we started early on, they're like, why are you reaching out to them? Why are you reaching out to a community that was in the deep blue precincts that never voted Republican, let alone for President Trump? But Ambassador Grinnell led the way. Leadership, matters. Look, and these were conversations that were difficult conversations. Kamala Harris didn't want to meet with the Arab Americans, the Muslim Americans, because she was afraid of tough questions. But our guy, Rick sat in there. A lot of this conversation, they were respectful conversations, but they were tough conversations. And that is the difference when you have a paternalistic Democratic Party far left that doesn't want to treat minority groups that are American at heart, that are pro-America. They've immigrated here. They sacrificed so much for their families and for their children. I'll give you an anecdote. We did a 20-second ad called "The Daughter of Dearborn" that went viral in Michigan. It was a lady by the name of Sam Lukman. She was a Yemeni American, a daughter of immigrants, a single mother, was a progressive activist, and was looking into the camera telling her community to vote for Donald Trump because he is the candidate for peace, as he has proven to be. And that is we've never seen anything like it. It was absolutely historic. People thought we were crazy for even trying, but we proved them wrong.
And Gina, you hit the nail on the head with what you said a moment ago about, a lot of these communities haven't even been talked to, and if just a small amount of outreach can make such a difference. When we look at 2025, okay, so 2025, there's two very big races that we have coming up. There's a governor's race in Virginia and a governor's race in New Jersey, right? Yeah, but you guys listen to me, because
Karen, can we win New Jersey? Okay, Elizabeth, we can win, okay.
Yeah, but hear me out here, because there's two key philosophies that I'm asking people to embrace going into this year and every year forward. Number one, that every year is an election year. We can no longer just get involved every 2 years or every 4 years for a couple of weeks before the election. And number two, every election is a national election. What do I mean by that? Well, we saw in 2020 how just a few governors in a few states with the stroke of a pen changed their voter laws by executive order, which cost us the 2020 election overall. So it does matter in every state who the governors are. We have to get involved in all of this. Now, when we talk about communities that people are not connecting with, it doesn't just go by, the color of people's skin or their religion. Here's in New Jersey, convicted felons are allowed to vote in New Jersey. Well, guess what? The Democratic Party, who has spent decades screaming about criminal justice reform, when they decided to go after Donald Trump and decided to go after the J6ers, the Democratic Party decided that there's nothing worse in the world than being a convicted felon and that they're the scum of the earth. I am going into New Jersey all of this year. I'm going to be speaking in prisons. I am going to be speaking to ex-convicts groups. And my message is very simple. Which political party is demonizing convicted felons, and which political party just elected one to be president of the United States?
That's awesome. I love that. Matt, here's a quick question for you.
I like these guys talking, Gina. I think they're making a lot of sense.
Well, but I want you to address something because you talked about looking out there at the landscape in your own states and seeing what no one else is doing, seeing the message that no one else is thinking or the action that no one else is taking. You did that in this last election. Just talk briefly about that.
Yeah, so, I worked on presidential campaigns. Mercy and I met in a White House. Like, we've been doing national politics. I mean, I'm kind of feel like I'm at an AA program here because I'm sorry to all of you that I've been involved in politics my whole entire life. It's the only thing I've ever done. But but a part of that is even when you're dim-witted, you can learn some things. And what you learn is that everybody's a genius when you win an election. So we're all geniuses. Everything we did was fantastic because we won, and that's not honest.
No.
Some of the things were difference makers, and some of the things weren't. When you lose, everyone's an idiot, and everything you did was stupid, and that's not honest either. So you have to really look at things in a clear-eyed way. I would say there's a couple things I've been doing this job a while, and there's a couple things I'm actually proud of. That even though they say that's a vice, right? Pride. But there are a couple of things I'm proud of. One of the things I'm most proud of is back to Brandon's comments and your comments too. The first group, and we do this together, we're a community. The first group to invite RFK to speak was who? It was CPAC. CPAC invited RFK. I got yelled at by everybody. What an idiot you are. He's a liberal. He's running against Trump. He's going to hurt Trump. I was like, I don't know. I'm reading about these assassinations. I think he's got a real finger on the pulse of this deep state thing. And by the way, I don't know if any of you've noticed, but I think I eat too many Snickers bars sometimes, and I don't think our food thing is working so good. And I go to all these other countries. I go to Hungary and Brazil and all these countries, and they all look so much better than the rest of us in America who are a little porky and a little eating our processed food. So he might be right about this. So we let him come, and he spoke about this, and he hit it out of the park. Now he's in Trump's cabinet, okay? Do you know who was the first group to invite Tulsi Gabbard to speak on the right? CPAC. She headlined our Reagan dinner. Any of you who were in this room who were there that night who yelled at me, no, you didn't yell at me, Karen. But it worked out. But some of you said to me, what the hell are you doing? I was like, I don't really know, but we're going to give her a shot because the Democratic Party is literally kicking her out of it. And she just ran for president. And they say she's a Russian agent. Well, they say Trump's a Russian agent, so I really might like her when I get to know her. And she did a spectacular job. Yeah. By the way, you know who else we took a chance on, who everyone said it was wrong to do? Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Came to CPAC.
Yeah.
Look at what National Review said when we invited Donald Trump to CPAC.
How many of you were there that year? How many of you were there? That's cool.
I was there. You were there, Kimberly. We're getting old. But talk about pearl clutching to invite Donald Trump, who wasn't a registered Republican and, said some bombastic things. It was the right thing to do. So we're going to keep doing that.
Yeah.
We're going to keep having non-traditional, you might say, whatever, people be a part of our program. And sometimes they'll say things that maybe some of us don't like. But along this process, we're going to rediscover something as a country. The right to speak your mind. The right to not be canceled. And the right to learn and think a little bit out loud. And if we can allow that to be something that's acceptable again, I think we're going to self-correct as a country. So I'm proud that we played a role in that. So the answer to your question is, in politics, one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to say to Americans out there who can legally vote once, we're going to tell them, if you feel comfortable with a little bit about what you're hearing, for instance, in this conversation, you're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Matt, can I say to you too, to your point about, taking risks and inviting non-traditional people, people are very aware of what I've gone through for the last 4 years.
Which was wrong.
Thank you. But I want you guys to know that in 2022, very shortly after I got off of house arrest, and certainly when the national conversation regarding January 6th was still extremely negative, I got a phone call from Matt Schlapp in early 2022, and his exact words to me were, Brandon, don't think that your friends have forgotten about you. He said, I want you to come and speak at CPAC in 2022. And he invited me to speak in 2022 and 2023 and 2024 and gave me a stage and a platform to talk about my January 6th experience and to even erect a prison cell at January 6th to do a demonstration to draw attention to what the J6ers were going through. So I want to thank you for your consistent support of the January 6th community all this time.
Absolutely. Yeah. We are almost out of time. Do you have any final words? Because we want to.
Hey, no, first, Gina, can we say thank you for Michigan?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for believing in us. Thank you for believing in us when not many people believed in our mission. The Muslim Americans, Arab Americans love President Trump. They love the message for peace, the peace that the president has already delivered. And this is a community that's growing, and you're going to see a lot more of them voting Republican.
Right. Awesome. Let's do it. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Gina, and thanks for being here with Real America Voice. Have you all gone down to CPAC Central and seen their big Mac Daddy television set down there? It's a little boisterous and loud, but I kind of love it.
It's fun. And every single morning, 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern Time, American Sunrise, would love to have you in our morning show audience. We do a fun but tight show, and we have we haven't had you on yet, but we'll have to do it. But we have these guys on all the time, and love to have your input and participation. Thank you all so much for a great feedback.
In 2025, we find ourselves in a pivotal moment where the call for unity, freedom, and a better future echoes louder than ever. For more than 10 years, Patriot Mobile has been committed to supporting the values that make our nation great. With affordable plans and reliable nationwide coverage on all three of the major networks, Patriot Mobile is not just a wireless service, it's a call to action for those who believe in the American dream. Choose a wireless carrier that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
Every institution today is under attack. The home, the church, the government. And many people are asking, what is the truth? Jesus Christ claimed the ultimate truth. Are you willing to face the truth?
Do you think the MK Ultra project ever actually ended?
The Central Intelligence Agency is actively involved in mind manipulation.
We all answer to one God and one Savior, and He's there to change your life for the better.
Thank you, President Trump, for standing up for America's families. With the stroke of a pen, President Trump is shutting down radical gender ideology and racist indoctrination in our schools, protecting children from dangerous, irreversible transgender surgeries, defending the truth that there are only two genders, and saving women's sports. They'll do anything to stop President Trump, but he's not backing down, and neither are we.
Ladies and gentlemen, up next, the Great Expansion, a new energy economy. Please welcome CEO Curio 55, Ed McGuinness, Governor of Alaska, Mike Dunleavy, and founder and executive director of Power the Future, Daniel Turner.
I'm here. Oh, you're here? Oh, wait. There we go. Right, you're like, Governor, you're in the middle. It's like we've got a dating game.
Great to be with you. Hello, CPAC, and thanks for joining us on this panel about energy. An expression I say often, energy is everything. First thing you did this morning when you woke up required energy. You probably turned off your alarm, you took a hot shower, you looked at your phone to see what President Trump did during the night, you brewed some coffee, and the very last thing you will do tonight before you go to bed requires energy. Turn off the light, set your alarm. Energy is everything. And as President Trump says, if we're going to enter into this golden age of America, we are only going to do so with affordable, reliable, abundant American energy. So it's great to have a panel to talk about this with two gentlemen who don't just love energy, but because of that, they love humanity. I'm with Governor Mike Dunleavy, the 12th governor of the great state of Alaska.
Thank you.
And Ed McGuinness, who's the CEO of Curio, one of the most innovative nuclear companies in the country and in the world. And we're going to talk about energy. And Governor, if you don't mind, I'm going to start with you. So January 20th, plethora of executive orders, and yet Alaska got its own. Pretty remarkable. The first state to ever get its own executive order. Why was this necessary for Alaska? What happened?
Well, President Trump, for many reasons, has always had an affinity for Alaska, even in his first term, but he sees us as a solution to many of America's problems. As many people know, Alaska was purchased from Russia in 1867 because of its resources. Vast amounts of oil, vast amounts of gas, vast amounts of minerals, 49 of the 50 rare earths, millions of acres of trees, fish, the list goes on and on and on. And we've had a difficult past with some administrations. President Trump came on the scene, understood its importance to the world, the U.S. and the world. And when he came back here on November 5th, I got to tell you, November 5th, I don't know about you, but it was like Christmas for me, and I'm 63 years old. So I mean, I was hopping all over the place. But long story short, a lot of the issues that could help America are in Alaska. So they put together an executive order on mining, oil, gas, different oil plays, different gas projects. I mean, one of the largest projects in the world that we're working on right now is our gas project, which would have gas go down a 42-inch line, 800 miles, and then to